maintain entrance for Edmund Stoiber, darling of the German right. We have millions of people looking for jobs, he said. We shouldn't be letting new people into our country. Those are the two issues, the economy and immigration, that Stoiber believes will mobilize his supporters.
And there is some late news tonight. Gerhard Schröder has sent a written apology to George Bush after one of his cabinet ministers compared Mr. Bush's foreign policy with that of Adolf Hitler. Now, it's not a big scandal here, but it does suggest this race will be unpredictable right to the very end.
Stephen, thank you. France looks set to lift its ban on British beef 3 years after the European Union ruled that it was safe to eat. The French Food Safety Agency now says our beef is as safe as its own. The ban, which is illegal, could be lifted within days. John Sopel is in Paris.
It's now 6 years since British beef was on sale in a French supermarket like this one, but it may be only a matter of weeks before it makes its return. But after mad cow disease and the unremitting bad publicity, will anyone want to buy it? A trade that was worth around £180 million the year before the ban was imposed has disappeared. Consumers have mixed opinions on whether they'll be buying British beef again.
I don't know if it's that, but it's so tasty, and I love the, I love British beef.
I have more confidence in French beef than in English beef, so if I have choice, I prefer French beef.
I don't think it's different between British beef and French beef, and I think maybe the problem, but it's all the same.
And that is precisely the conclusion these scientists at the French Food Safety Agency reached. Not that British beef is 100% safe, but that it poses no greater risk than French beef.
If the government decides to lift the ban on the basis of a report, we won't say that it will change the level of risk we reached in France.
So in other words, British beef is as safe as French beef.
We say that now, in both countries, we reach a level which is comparable.
Those who market British beef acknowledge they face an uphill struggle.
There is no demand for British beef as such, but there is a strong demand for high-quality product. And in the UK, we produce beef to the highest quality, to the highest standards, and I don't think there is any country in Europe that can reach these standards.
The whole issue of beef has been a running sore in Franco-British relations, and you get the sense that politicians on both sides of the Channel just want it sorted. Added incentive for the French is that if they don't lift the ban, then they could be facing fines of £100,000 a day from Brussels. John Sopel, BBC News, Paris.
Here, Plaid Cymru has accused Labour of running the Welsh Assembly like a county council and wasting its chance to transform Wales. Plaid's leader, Ieuan Wyn-Jones, was speaking to his party's annual conference in Llandudno.
We campaign to win, because Wales needs us to win, because it's so important for the future of Wales that the real party of Wales forms and runs the next government of Wales.
The government's trying to persuade car drivers to use eco-friendly fuels such as LPG, liquefied petroleum gas. Of the 26 million cars on Britain's roads, just 80,000 run on the fuel, even though it's much cheaper than petrol. Nicola Carslaw reports on why we're so reluctant to convert our cars.
At an alternative fuels show in Warwickshire, rival car firms are competing to prove that they're the most environmentally friendly. Major manufacturers now make increasing numbers of LPG vehicles, but the take-up by individuals has been low. So now the government wants to persuade company car drivers to choose LPG. 2 or 3 years down the line, their used cars will reach the second-hand market.
More people can acquire the vehicles, and certainly for the first time we are now beginning to move what has been historically very much a fleet.
Cars. But until then, the government's having an uphill struggle converting us to LPG. Nicola Carslaw, BBC News.
And it's nearly 26 minutes past 10. I'll be back later with an update on the day's headlines, but now we join our news teams across the United Kingdom.
Thanks. Thanks, Peter. Good evening. I'm Stuart Norval. The countryside is on the move. This weekend, a huge march is planned in London, with thousands travelling from our area. According to the organisers, the Countryside Alliance, it'll be the biggest protest in peacetime Britain. Nikki Mitchell has more.
It's the talk of the countryside. Andrew Martin's a farrier in Hook Norton, one of thousands of local people determined to join Sunday's march. His business relies on hunting. Without horses like St George here to shoe, he says his livelihood and his profession would die.
I employ 3 or 4 people, and probably 85–90% of our business is shoeing hunters, through the winter season. And obviously, if I didn't have that business, I wouldn't be able to train people, to move on with the farrier profession.
I'm going on the march because I am actually a hunt groom and my life depends on it. And we hope to prove that we do not want to stop hunting, otherwise we're all going to lose our jobs.
It's not just those who rely on hunting who are keen to vent their frustration. Glyn Pearman rears pheasants for shooting. For him, it seems the whole farming industry is going down the pan.
There's no hope of children, grandchildren going into the industry, and I'm bitter about it. It's totally unnecessary. We haven't got a level playing field. And if only the government would give us the help that European governments do, we would be so much happier.
Let's try and see it as representing the interests of all the rural communities, farming and other rural communities that are suffering. It would be quite wrong simply to see it as an expression of the hunting lobby's interest. It's an expression of the pain in the countryside at the moment.
But just how much support are those in the country going to get from those in the city?
I think it's a few people with a lot of money whinging about nothing.
You probably have got a point with bus services and the shops obviously closing down.
I think the debate's there and it's a real one. And it's for us metropolitan urbanites to some extent to take into account.
Anyone travelling around the countryside can hardly have failed to notice the many posters up advertising this march. So many people from our area want to go. The organisers have had to hire more than 100 coaches and 2 trains to take them there. A clear indication of the strength of feeling here. Nikki Mitchell, BBC South Today, near Wallingford.
Now, BBC South Today ran a phone vote today. Out of 14,000 calls, 66% said the countryside is at risk, whilst 34% said the march was nothing more than the pro-hunting lobby trying to save the sport. A string of racist attacks against Somalians. In the latest incident, Abdi Muse has spent 2 days in intensive care after he was attacked. However,
again personally, but it's been an experience that I'll never forget.
109 MOD houses in Ambrosden were bought up and renovated by the developers Annington Homes. With the housing boom in Oxfordshire pricing many people out of the market, and with these homes starting from £103,000, it's no wonder they're selling like hotcakes.
Everyone seems quite happy. It's been a really good atmosphere. Everyone's happy with that they've got the house they want so far. And they had a really good night last night camping and a good barbecue. So it was a really good spirit when we arrived this morning. Everyone knows their neighbours now.
Michelle and Dean are hoping to move into their new house by November. And for them, it's more than just buying a new home. This is their all-important first step on the property ladder. Sejal Karia, BBC South Today, Ambrosden.
A national poll has named Oxford's Cornmarket Street as the 2nd worst street in Britain. The study was carried out by the Commission for Architecture and the Built Environment. Some voters in the poll described the street as a disaster area, the main problems being broken paving, rubbish and lack of landscaping. Speedway now. It's been confirmed tonight that the Oxford Cheetahs are to opt for self-imposed relegation after a season of controversy in the Elite League. The Cheetahs have been in action in an end-of-season clash with Poole tonight. Promoter Steve Purchase used the meeting to announce to fans that the club will ride in the Premier League next year. So let's move on. Look at the weather forecast then. Tonight it's going to be largely cloudy but dry in most places. A few clearer intervals, minimum temperatures around 10 Celsius. Tomorrow mostly cloudy and dry again. Some bright spells, maximum temperature 19 Celsius, that's 66 degrees Fahrenheit. Sunday will be mainly dry with bright or sunny spells. That's all from me then. More tomorrow evening from us. Now back to Peter Sissons.
And the main news tonight, police have found the remains of the missing schoolgirl Amanda Dowler. They were discovered in woodland at Yateley Heath in Hampshire. And some breaking news, staff at Yasser Arafat's headquarters have surrendered to Israeli troops tonight. There are reports that the building has been hit by a tank shell. The Palestinian leader is said to be unhurt. Newsnight starting now over on BBC Two, but from the 10 o'clock news, enjoy your weekend and good night.
Hello again. It does feel like autumn now, doesn't it? And there's going to be quite an autumn chill in the air tonight where skies stay clear for any length of time, and that's most likely across Northern Ireland, southern parts of Scotland and the north of England. Single figure, so a fairly chilly start to the day here tomorrow. But we've got some rain pushing in. It's been a pretty dry spell for most of us, but that's set to change for the north-east of Scotland. The rain not amounting to a great deal, but nuisance value really as it pushes southwards on this weather front through tonight and tomorrow, making fairly slow progress, bringing perhaps some drizzly rain to some eastern parts of England, and then ending up perhaps across the Irish Sea as well by tomorrow night, with some cloud lingering across Northern Ireland into Sunday. If you're heading for the hills, it's not looking too great across the Scottish Highlands for tomorrow. A fair amount of hill fog, particularly through the early part of the day. Elsewhere, not looking too bad, though. Although the winds will be picking up quite strong across the tops on Sunday, with those temperatures over the fell tops dropping fairly rapidly as well. But not a bad day for most of the mountain areas tomorrow, away from Scotland. In fact, not a bad day for most of England and Wales. A bit of sunshine coming through once again, brighter across the southwest than it has been over the last couple of days. But that thicker cloud will find its way out of Scotland, working its way down into the northeast of England and Northern Ireland too, I think, turning a bit cloudy later in the day, perhaps a spit and a spot of drizzle. But at the same time, it starts to brighten up across the more northern parts of Scotland. Not too bad where you've got some sunshine in the south and not too much breeze. 19 degrees possibly across South Wales, southwest England, but chilly across that northeast corner of Scotland with a bit of a breeze picking up through the day. And that breeze really is going to make its presence felt, I think, through the second half of the weekend. And if you're heading off in a boat, then watch it down that east coast, the North Sea coast, touching a force 5 at times, maybe even a force 6 in one or two exposed areas, a more gentle force 4 around the English Channel and into the Irish Sea. But that breeze is going to make it feel chilly for all of us, I think, on Sunday, knocking temperatures back a couple of degrees compared to what we'll see tomorrow, so 15 to 17 typically, and feeding one or two showers in as well across Lincolnshire and East Anglia. But a drier, brighter day for most of Scotland. Might take a bit of time, though, for things to brighten up across Northern Ireland and the west of Wales. Monday, though, the fairly settled weather continuing, just one or two showers running in on what will still be a fairly brisk wind across that southeast corner, but a lot of dry and bright weather elsewhere. But perhaps just the signs of a change across northern parts of the UK by Tuesday, and it may well turn a little bit more unsettled during the second half of next week. Bye-bye.